welcome to the Heart of Being an NLP Professional, about Karen Falconer and her book, The NLP Professional. So just to let you know, a few housekeeping rules first. This is being recorded, so if you don't want your face to be seen, please turn off your video, although we would like to see all your faces, if possible. If you want to ask a question, please use the raised hand reaction on Zoom, which you can do, and then that puts you to the top of my queue so I can see who's asking the questions. There will be opportunities to ask questions during the session that Karen will work with, so either wait till then or please use the chat to post your question, and I'll use that to put the question to Karen at the appropriate time. So thank you again for joining us, and I'll hand over to Karen to start the workshop.
Very much, Cash. Yes, as Cash said, if you are in an appropriate position to be able to turn on your video, please do so. It's so much nicer talking to people rather than black names on screens. So thank you so much for coming today. It's lovely to see some familiar faces and some new ones. So this session is the heart of being an NLP professional. And the first thing I started thinking was, what am I going to say? And the more important thing was, well, what qualifies me to actually say this? And I guess what qualifies me to say it is partly because as CEO of ANLP, we have a very unique position, if you like, on the NLP community. And I think what gives, right, can you hear me now? I got muted. So I'm not sure when I got muted. As I was saying, I grew up modelling an NLP professional in my dad. And I didn't know anything about modelling at the time. I didn't know anything about NLP at the time. This was a long, long time ago, as you can tell by the grey hair. But modelling, unconsciously modelling a professional kind of has given me that perspective, and it's just professionalism is in my core. My father was a solicitor, and I grew up watching him talk to people, talk to potential criminals, to people who were about to be convicted of some sort of criminal activity, and then to other solicitors and his peers, and even people, landed gentry in Oxfordshire. And whoever he was talking to, he just knew how to conduct himself and how to behave. And so that's a lot of what I kind of absorbed in my younger years. Sadly, my dad died when I was 25, so I never had the opportunity to properly model him in the same way that NLP professionals would know how to do that and elicit those strategies. So everything I gleaned from him, I gleaned as an unconscious modeler. But I think it's stuck. When I first left university, I became an accountant, which of course is a profession as well. So I then had many years working in a very male-oriented profession as an accountant. And then I was invited in 2005 to take over ANLP. Now, being a former accountant, I looked at the books of ANLP, and very quickly, had I made a decision based on head, logic, figures, I wouldn't have touched ANLP with a barge pole. However, something spoke to me, heart and gut, and said, this is something I have to do. This is something I want to do. And this is something that's going to make a difference. And I was using my NLP skills within my accounting practice, but I wasn't actually practicing as a coach or anything like that. It was very much just using my NLP skills, talking to other people. And I realized that in taking over ANLP, I could make so much bigger difference to so many more people, because it's very much about, we support you, the trainers and the professionals, so you can help the public. We're at the bottom of that triangle, not at the top of that triangle. So it just made sense, heart-led sense, to take over the association. And here we are. 18 years later, if that's the right maths, and we're still here. So we must be doing something right. Now, we've only got an hour, so it's not going to be enough time to go through all of the book in detail. So what I thought might be a really good starting point would be to sort of take the top line of each of the chapters in the book, because that kind of gives you a summary. It gives you a bit of a mindset, the mindset of being an NLP professional. And it very much is about walking the talk and being at cause. And so if I were to just share sort of the first piece of every chapter of the book, then it will give you an insight into what's involved with being an NLP professional. And then what we'll do is we'll take a deeper dive into one of the sections, which I think is really, really key. So chapter 1 is about adopting a professional attitude. And what I write about being an NLP professional, the mindset of an NLP professional, is as an NLP professional, you understand that if you want people to pay good money for your services, you need to look, sound, and feel like you are worth the investment on every level. To borrow the well-used phrase, your attitude determines your altitude. So in order to encourage people to part with their money for your services, it's important for you to have a professional attitude. Now, I think with this, you can very much take Dilts' logical levels, and adopting a professional attitude is partly about the congruence, but it's right from environmental up to your vision and your mission. And I think one of the examples that I use in the book, which would very much be on an environmental level, is when when I was an accountant, and one of my clients wanted to approach the bank for a rather large loan. I think it was in the region of £1 million loan for a project that they were doing. And I turned up as the accountant. I'd got all my paperwork, all my figures to hand, and I was dressed appropriately in a suit and smart shoes, and my feet were killing me because I was wearing heels. But I looked like an accountant. I needed to look like an accountant because I needed to give the bank confidence that I knew what I was talking about. And that's kind of at the time what I felt my client would be turning up like as well, you know, suited, booted, I'm trustworthy, I deserve the money. And he turned up wearing a black t-shirt and black jeans and a kind of casual jacket. And I was kind of, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? The bank aren't going to trust him. What's going to happen? And that was my mindset as a professional accountant. But actually, I realized that what he was doing is he was being congruent because he worked in media. And in media, the mindset is very much more a casual approach. So he was coming to the bank absolutely the consummate professional for his particular sector, and oozing that confidence to the bank manager that he knew what he was talking about. He knew what he needed to do. He was very congruent with what he had to do. And so between us, we made a really good team. I looked like I could be responsible for the figures, and he looked like he knew what he was talking about with regard to the business plan and the business opportunity. And he did get the loan. So we must have been doing something right. But that's just an example of right down to the environmental level, how important it is to be walking the talk as a professional, whatever you're doing. So moving on to chapter 2. So chapter 2 for me is actually one of the key chapters in the book, and it will be the chapter that we deep dive into a bit later on. And it's entitled Being Congruent with What You Do. So I'm going to share a couple of bits from the first part of this chapter. Authenticity is integrity in action, and it's easily detectable. You don't have to be NLP trained to work out whether someone is being congruent, i.e. their values and beliefs match their actions. As an NLP professional, you understand how important it is to be a great ambassador for your business. You recognize that by demonstrating the impact on NLP of your own life, you become the the best possible advert to demonstrate that NLP works. NLP professionals understand NLP is about communication. It is about attitude, and it is, in a way, a philosophy for life. Now, you're all NLP professionals, so I have no wish to teach my grandma to suck eggs, so to speak. And I think sometimes we all fall into that trap of not actually applying our NLP skills to ourselves and to our own business. So, and I know that I was very guilty of this when I first, the whole congruence piece, as I mentioned, you know, Dilts is congruence in the neurological levels. When I did my coaching course many years ago, we went on this initial weekend, and we were encouraged towards the end of that weekend to actually go home and get your first client, and this would be the starting point for your massive business, and it was all going to be very, very successful. So, all fired up by the passion of the weekend and everything, I went home and immediately signed up for one of these, I don't know if they even still exist anymore, but these networking meetings that happen early in the morning. And I turned up at this first networking meeting the next week, having been on an introductory weekend for coaching. I hadn't done the work, I hadn't qualified as a coach or anything like that, but I had signed up to be the coach at this meeting. And that confidence of being a coach lasted until about 3 minutes before the meeting started. And I had to do my 60-second pitch as to why I was the coach of their dreams and I was going to create a whole difference to their life. And confidence failed me completely, because I thought in my head, I was going, I don't know what I'm talking about. I have not a clue. I didn't believe that I was a coach at that point, and everything like that. So I was very incongruent with what I was doing. I did actually get quite a lot of business from that business networking group as an accountant. I didn't actually pick up any business as a coach, because at the time I just didn't believe. I didn't believe, I wasn't confident in what I was doing. So as I said, this is kind of, for me, this is the most important part of being an NLP professional. Because if we're not congruent with what we do, if we don't walk our talk, then how can we possibly promote NLP, good NLP, quality NLP to anybody else? It's a bugbear of mine when various people in all walks of life, not picking on any particular profession, but it's very much that do as I say, not as I do. And that kind of really irritates me. So we will come back to this one. So moving on to chapter 3, which is demonstrating best practice. So this is an interesting one for NLP professionals, because I think quite a lot of the time, best practice means what? It's very easy to understand best practice in a recognised profession like the law, or in the NHS, or in education, or something like that, those particular professions are oozing with best practice guidelines and all that sort of thing. But what about being an NLP professional? So I write in the beginning of that chapter, NLP professionals embrace the opportunity to demonstrate best practice, because it allows them to demonstrate that they have an awareness of their responsibility to their clients. Best practice allows you as a professional to accept accountability for your actions, and very much puts you at cause with your clients. So again, we're bringing all those NLP techniques, NLP skills into play in being at cause and taking 100% responsibility. Of course, taking 100% responsibility, assuming that our clients are also going to take 100% responsibility. So one of the ways I believe that again, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine, but one of the ways that I believe we can demonstrate this as NLP professionals is around the use of misleading language. So, you know, we are all masters at language, if you like. It's kind of pretty much what we learn within NLP is about the mastery of language. And I notice very frequently, that people practitioners can use misleading language around their own certifications. So, I mean, we weren't, well, some of us weren't around when NLP started back in the 70s in Santa Cruz, but they were the co-founders of NLP and those that sort of followed after them. They were modeling so many different things at the time that they kind of modeled the education profession to a certain extent with the titles that they gave to the NLP certifications. So if you think about it, there's actually 3 forms of masters in NLP. There's a master practitioner, which is kind of one level up from a practitioner. There's then a master trainer, which is in our field is the highest level of a certification in NLP. And then in the more generic field of education, there's a master's degree, which you can get a master's degree in an NLP or coaching related topic. So that means that we've got 3 different levels of masters. And so when a practitioner is saying, I have a master's in NLP, to the general public, to the person they're talking to, what does that actually mean? Because there can be a presumption that this master's in NLP is a master's degree, 1 level above a bachelor's degree. And it might mean that actually I'm an NLP master practitioner. So being clear about your own certifications, being clear about your own level of mastery in the field of NLP, I do believe is part of being an NLP professional. So moving on again. So, chapter 4, appreciating the value of social proof. Now I'll hold my hand up and say I'm not good at every aspect of this because I'm not that keen on social media, but we'll gloss over that bit. But NLP professionals appreciate the value of having many different types of social proof to support their clients, because they understand potential clients may be looking at a variety of solutions to their particular issue, and those clients need to evaluate and compare the options available. NLP professionals accept that operating in the real world means matching expectations of their potential clients and meeting them in their map of the world. They know social proof is a powerful way of pacing and leading a potential client and converting them into a paying client. Now, again, it's NLP techniques filtering through. Pacing and leading is really, really important, as is meeting your clients, your potential students in their map of the world, in their model of the world. And whilst we all love to live with the belief that we all have, because that's why we're here, NLP works. We know that NLP works. That's why we're here. But it's not always easy for our potential clients to understand that in the same way. So they sometimes need additional proof that what you're doing, what we do actually works. So bear that in mind. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I know I've already said I'm not actually a fan of social media. However, I am a fan of reviews. And before we buy anything, well, not necessarily anything, but even with things on Amazon, we read the reviews before we decide which one we're going to get. Certainly before big purchases, washing machines and things like that, we read the reviews. We read reviews on Trustpilot. Cash is very good at reading the reviews for restaurants and things like that, because food is one of his passions. So he will read restaurant reviews. Reviews are really important to people, and whether or not you like them, your clients might be using that as one of the ways that they evaluate your services above somebody else's. So it's really, really, really important. You may know how good you are, but if you've got other people telling you how good you are, if you've got other people telling your potential clients how good you are, that actually carries so much weight with people's decision-making strategies. So do bear that in mind and ensure that you do have positive reviews. Now, that might be positive reviews on your website, positive reviews on LinkedIn, positive reviews on your ANLP profile if you're a member of ANLP. All of those things count and might be the difference that makes the difference when a potential client is reading up on you. So I would encourage you to do that. The other thing I would encourage you to do if you are a member of ANLP is please, please, please complete your profile. Just as you're looking on here, you know, some people have a photo, some people are here in real life, and some people, we just are looking at a black screen with their name. And if you've got an ANLP profile and you haven't put a photo on it, and you haven't put anything on there about the services that you offer, people are going to be less likely to look at your profile, especially when other people's profiles may have some additional information. So please do complete your ANLP profile. It's just a personal request from ANLP. So moving on to chapter 5. Chapter 5 is celebrating the diversity of NLP. So what I've written at the beginning of this chapter, NLP professionals like you understand the bigger picture and are able to chunk up and chunk down again. You're able to celebrate the differences between you and your perceived competitors, realizing it's all about respecting other models of the world and accepting that there are different training models for NLP, which all have a part to play in developing field of NLP. The thing we all have in common is NLP. Diversity is healthy and allows you to stand out in your chosen profession. So one of my friends, Bev James, said, and it's quoted in the book, she said, generalists seek clients, clients seek specialists. I'm going to repeat that. Generalists seek clients, clients seek specialists. Your clients are looking for a specialist. They want, if you have, so say for example, you've got sash windows on your old Victorian property, which is a very, very particular type of window. You are not going to go onto the Google browser and do a search for window repairs. You're going to do a search for sash window repairs or sash window specialists, because you need to hone in on that particular skill. So bear in mind that your potential clients will have a particular challenge, a particular problem that they want resolved. It might be stopping smoking, it might be weight loss, it might be career progression, but they're not going to search for NLP practitioners. They are going to search for how to lose weight. So if you've got on your website and on your ANLP profile and that sort of thing that you specialize in weight loss or you specialize in stopping smoking, then your information is more likely to come up on a search when somebody is searching for the solution to their particular issue. So please do bear that in mind, that actually, I know that we sometimes think, oh, niching into our market, chunking down into our market means that we're going to lose clients. Actually, we're narrowing our field. Actually, it's probably going to increase your opportunity for being found by the people you most want to support. So bear that in mind, that actually chunking down and niching your services is potentially a positive. So chapter 6 is all about working collaboratively. As an NLP professional, you realize the power of working collaboratively and pooling resources on occasions, so collectively we can get NLP out there into the public arena and make sure we are noticed. NLP professionals can recognize the power of the people, especially when it comes to working towards recognition of NLP as an accepted profession and with regard to any potential regulation or legislation. Now, just as I was saying in the previous chapter about chunking down, there's also the other side of that, which is about recognizing that NLP isn't as widely recognized as our need for food, for example. Now, we all know that we need food in order to survive. Therefore, our supermarket chains can compete with each other And they are constantly, you know, if you see the advertising for supermarket chains, it's my prices are better than yours, and we price match with this supermarket and all that sort of thing. But that's because they are widely enough known in society. Everybody recognizes already that they need food. So they are in a position where they can compete against each other in the market for the services. However, we're in a market where we're not recognized as the mainstream solution all the time. If you bear in mind the recent series, well, all the series of The Apprentice, I don't know if any of you have watched The Apprentice. It pops up in various countries, but basically the end goal of The Apprentice is for one person to win the financial investment in their business. But in order to win that financial investment in their business, they do need to be on the team that wins the tasks each week. So even though they are competing with each other eventually for that one prize, in the short term, they actually have to collaborate as a team to ensure that their team goes through to the following week and they don't run the risk of being eliminated by being on the losing team. So it's really, really important from that perspective. And I think one of the other things that it's important for us to recognize is that it's okay to be individual. It's absolutely fine. You know, in NLP, we're very keen on being individual and being noticed for being individual. And that's absolutely fine. I mean, I've got here one daffodil. This one daffodil is really beautiful. It's really unique. There is no other daffodil like this daffodil. However, when it's all alone on its own, it's not that noticeable. If you put it with a bunch of daffodils, suddenly it makes a bigger difference. You can see, you are noticed because you're a daffodil. And that's really where we are with NLP at the moment, is we've got to get ourselves noticed before we can start competing for that individual piece of space. So just bear that in mind, that it is okay to work collaboratively. It is okay to be loud and proud about NLP and work with others. You know, NLP trainers are working together at the moment so that they can run one master practitioner course rather than both of them cancelling individual master practitioner courses because there isn't enough interest. So I think I've made my point. So chapter 7 is about raising awareness of NLP, which is kind of the daffodils again. So NLP professionals recognise the need to raise awareness of NLP by effective marketing, and they embrace every opportunity to raise the profile of NLP. NLP professionals understand that by raising the profile of NLP, they are ultimately increasing demand for their services as an NLP professional. Now, sticking with that metaphor of the daffodils, I do think that NLP is a little bit like a secret garden. So we've got all these people on the screen now, and you're all very individual, and some of you might be the wallflowers, some of you might be the sunflowers, some of you might be the garden bench or the waterfall. It doesn't matter. You've all got a place in the garden, because actually it's that bringing together of all those things, all those different elements. That's what makes the garden really powerful. However, our garden is a secret garden. And I think so much of the time we tend to talk to each other about how wonderful NLP is. And I know that sometimes, you know, I think as a community, sometimes we can be very inward facing and looking to each other and looking to sell things to each other and that sort of thing. And certainly I know as a community, you know, we're very keen on training and learning more. But that doesn't actually take us out into the big wide world. It's keeping the door of our secret garden firmly closed and enjoying all the things that are in the secret garden for ourselves. So one of the things that we encourage, and it's so important, is again, it's pacing and leading your clients to choose your services, pacing and leading people who may have never heard of NLP to choosing your services. And the best way to do that is to showcase your NLP, write stories, write case studies, write rapport articles, do those things. And I think it's like, you know, Cash and I talk about this quite frequently. We started a project ages ago about NLP from the heart. And it's all about the things that you do. You guys all do these things. You might be doing them on a daily basis. And because you do them on a daily basis, you think it's normal. You think, well, it's just what everybody does. And when I hear your stories sometimes, you know, I've heard stories in the past of people helping after air disasters, people stepping in and helping after tsunamis. There's somebody I was talking to the other day who uses their NLP to support homeless people. And they think it's just the norm. And it's sort of, no, that is spectacular. Whatever you are doing, every client you help, it's a story. It's something that others can engage with, and it helps them to understand how powerful NLP can be. And it's so important that you share those stories, even if you think they're just, well, it's just what I do. It's powerful for others to hear it. So please, please, you know, it doesn't have to be on the ANLP website, but on your own website, in your social media, value what you do and value that other people might benefit from hearing those stories. Of course, the professional thing to do is to protect anonymity of clients and that sort of thing, but it's still the story. It's important. I am going to be more likely, well, in fact, the reason I first engaged in NLP is because I had a fear of flying, and I needed to get on a plane because getting on a plane was going to be about £400 cheaper than going on the Eurostar to France to visit a client when I was an accountant. And so that's how I found NLP in the first place. That's how I found NLP, through helping with my phobia of flying. But I found it because somebody had a story about, oh, this helped me with my flying phobia. And I read that story and I resonated with it. And so I followed it through. Chapter 8. Dispelling some common myths in NLP. NLP practitioners often come across various myths relating to the field of NLP and can often be seen to be perpetuating these myths further by their own practices. NLP professionals are well equipped to dispel these myths with narrative evidence. And of course, we also are empowered to change our own limiting beliefs that we may have inherited or been influenced by outside of the NLP community. So in this chapter, I deal with various myths, you know, NLP being a pseudoscience, a cult, etc., etc. And I think one of the key ones for me that we kind of bought into as an NLP community was that NLP can only be validated by having clinical research. And absolutely, NLP, clinical research has a place in NLP. It really does, especially in the health system and that sort of thing, where clinical research is really, really key. However, if you think about it, NLP can be applied in so many different ways. And we have a model that says, you know, there's NLP applications in personal development, in professional development and organizations, in education, in the healthcare services and healthcare systems. So all of those places, NLP can play a part. And I'm not sure about you, but I've never been into a corporate setting where somebody is asked about the clinical research in the models that I'm presenting. So it's not the be all and end all. There are so many different things. And just think about, you know, I mean, I used to do a bit of voluntary training for scout leaders. And a scout leader never asked about, was this a validated model? They embraced the models, they experienced the communication model, and it was, wow, this is a model that that changes their perception. I'm not sure there's any clinical research into the communication model, but it works. So it's a case of not being so hung up on some of those myths in NLP and being confident that actually, depending on where you're using your NLP, there are models that work. Models are accepted. So that's one of the things that I would say. So that's I've left the last chapter for the time being, but that's a very whistle-stop tour of the 8 chapters, the first 8 chapters, and really the mindset that you adopt as an NLP professional. So what I'd like to do now, as I said, is we have a deeper dive into chapter 2, the being congruent with what you do. And one of the key things I think that for our profession are the presuppositions of NLP. And Cash has very kindly just shared the link to our webpage, which lists the NLP presuppositions, which you might need that link in a minute. I will actually just share the screen as well, except my mouse has gone to sleep. Here we go. So I'll just share my screen, which has got the NLP presuppositions on it. There we go. So what I'd like you to do is, the aim of this short exercise is to have a look at the presupposition. I'm going to get you into groups of 3, into breakout rooms. And in your group of 3, I think we've probably got 10 minutes or so. If you take the presuppositions and perhaps take one each and explore how you could apply that presupposition more effectively in your own business, in your own coaching. Just take one of those presuppositions each and discuss it with the other people in your group to identify how you could apply that better in your own business. So welcome back. Thank you very much for participating in that. So I'd love to hear feedback, learnings, and anything else really, questions from that little exercise that you've just done, applying the presuppositions to your own business, your own coaching, your own training practices. Does anybody have anything, any feedback?
Oh, Caroline.
Caroline.
Hello, thank you for this session today, Karen. I didn't think I was going to make it because I've got a keynote this evening, my first one. And so I've been cramming. Yes. But actually, it's some of the things that you've come and shared with us this morning have actually been super helpful, and that I'm going to weave in this evening. For me, I mean, I love all the presuppositions. You know, they're also helpful and useful when we hone in on them, aren't they?
Yes.
For me, today, it's respecting another person's map of the world, because I'm talking with financial services professionals, and it's a celebration awards evening where our top achievers are receiving their awards, and I'm going to be sharing my journey on the power of showing up and putting myself in their shoes today, and also reconnecting with who I was before I started on this journey. I think will be really helpful to them, and taking myself out of my own head and serving. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Caroline, and enjoy your keynote this evening. That sounds like a fantastic opportunity to get NLP out there.
Yeah, it's the difference that makes the difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I must admit that's one of the ones that is very key for me, and having a young son, well, not young anymore, still young to me, but having a son that's on the autistic spectrum, I think that was the biggest difference it made to me, was being able to meet him in his map of the world, in his model of the world. It's so powerful to be able to it gives us so much opportunity to respect and understand where somebody else is coming from. So applying that for your keynote this evening is wonderful, and it's part of perceptual positions as well, which, if we'd had time, I would have encouraged everybody. We potentially could have done a perceptual positions exercise, because, and I'll drop the information. I mean, you'll know perceptual positions anyway, but perceptual positions from this perspective is putting yourself in the shoes of your client or your audience, and looking at your communication and your communication marketing and things like that, your NLP profile, your website, your communications on LinkedIn and everywhere, from the perspective of your potential client. It's very powerful, and it's very different to what we think we want people to know. We want people to know the amazing trainers we've trained with and things like that. But actually, that doesn't actually mean a great deal to our potential clients. What our potential clients want to know is, how can we help them? How can we serve them? How can we make a difference to their lives? Not where we trained. So bear that in mind as well. And thank you so much for sharing that, Caroline, and really good luck this evening.
Thank you.
It'll be great. So anyone else? So yes. What's HCK and CVC?
Sorry, hi.
Hi.
My name's Laura.
Hi,
Sorry,
Laura.
it's Happy Confident Kids, company that I work for. So what I was going to say, and thank you for this training, it's been really lovely. What I'm going to say is kind of links into what you were saying a minute ago, Karen, and you were talking about your son as well. And myself and Aisha were talking about behind every behaviour that there's a positive intention, and especially from working with children, you know, sometimes children can't always communicate what's going on for them. They just know that there's a feeling. And so let's say if I'm helping a child who's displaying anger and maybe smashing things up, it's because there's a positive intention that they want to communicate that there's an issue and there's something going on for them. Yeah. So, you know, some adults might perceive that as, like, call it bad behavior, but there's no such thing as bad behavior, you know. But yeah, that's their positive intention, that they're wanting to communicate that there's something out of balance for them and that they may need help. So yeah, just that is what you were saying there.
So powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Laura, because it is really, really powerful to recognize that. And that's actually one of the presuppositions that I really struggled with to start off with, because I was thinking, you know, applying that in certain contexts, and maybe is in your educational setting, is how can that have a positive intention? And then it was somebody explained to me, a very wise trainer, explained that there were two words missing off the end. Every behavior has a positive intention for them. And as you say, you know, with those young people, it's about, they need to communicate what it is they're feeling, and they don't know how to articulate that in any other way. And so it's so powerful, and thank you so much for sharing, Laura. That's
thank you.
Really great. Thank you. So is there anybody else who'd like to share anything that they discovered? Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Great, thanks. And thanks again for this and for listening nearly to what was going on in my own head. I was just speaking with Mona there, and I have read most of your book, but it's just great to hear it back succinctly. So Mona and I were discussing the presuppositions, and the one that came up for her was about communicating, and that we are always communicating no matter what we're saying, particularly what we're doing, what our faces are doing, and how that's so important. And for me, it was the mind-body linked system. And again, I work with children as well, and this is one thing that I love, helping children feel that and know that there is a link between their thoughts and their behaviors, but underpinning all of that and linking all of that is emotional state and what they're feeling.
Yes.
So that's what I thought mine was going to be when, you know, you said go find a presupposition that matters in your business. And then, as Mona mentioned, another one about our resources, and having all the resources we know that we need are actually there, just to uncover them and just to find them. And I think from my professional point of view, I said to Mona that I'd like to think I'm creative, but it's really, I'm kind of scattered. So to have that professional look, I used to think, well, that really isn't me, and I can't do that well. So straight away is, you know, me shoving away those potential resources that are there somewhere. Mm-hmm. So again, back to modeling, or back to looking to best practice. So today has been really helpful, Karen. I know I read all your text in the book, but hearing you speak it has been really eye-opening and massive for me. So thank you. Thanks from Mona as well, who's a new practitioner.
You're very welcome, and thank you, Mona, as well. And thank you for presenting so many of the presuppositions, because I mean, I sat there listening to you and thinking, they're all pretty good, aren't they?
And they're all kind of connected. You know, you start off
why
with
they're
one
there,
that's
really.
really important.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
domino effect. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they're there. And we are
Thanks, everybody.
in the privileged position, all of us sitting here, we are in the privileged position about knowing these, understanding the presuppositions. And I remember when I first learned them on my practitioner course a million years ago, my first thinking was, they're only ever going to help when everybody understands them. And until the whole world knows them, what use are they? But then I realized that actually it's about me, it's about my philosophy for life. And if it helps me to navigate life more easily and with more grace and ease, then surely that's a positive benefit of the presuppositions. That I'll take that. So thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Mona, your partner.
One more question. One
yes.
more question from Saeed, if that's okay. We're running going to run slightly over. Saeed.
Yeah, like you said, I think all the presuppositions are profoundly impactful in one's life. But I mean, I'd just like to add I mean, I've been a creative person all my life. I've been an advertising creative and a design person. And what I've been finding fascinating is how these presuppositions are helping me deal with my desire to be a creative coach, or a coach or a mentor for people who are working in the creative universe. And for example, the map is not the territory or the way or our ability to communicate through our whole being. And and there's there's a bit of embit thrown into that as well, where learning to trust. I mean, the mind and body is one system, and the way our body responds to certain situations or certain challenges, or certain griefs. As a creative person, it becomes so much more important to be able to recognize that within one's own self, to be able to respond better to a particular challenge. And of course, the map is not the territory. Our ability to suspend judgment,
yes,
as a creative person is so profoundly important for the kind of work that we do, whatever kind of creative expression we choose to involve ourselves in. But the ability to suspend judgment, because our map and the particular territory what we are working on can be two very different things. And so these particular ones, and I feel when I came into NLP 2 years back, I had no idea of the vastness of the potential applications that it has. And and it's an interesting, and hearing you talk about that suddenly puts so much things into perspective.
Well, and I love that. I think it's so powerful for us to be able to suspend judgment. It creates a whole new way of communicating with people to be able to do that. So thank you for presencing that, Saeed. That's really valuable. Thank you. So we are coming, well, we're past the end of this session. I'm really sorry we've run over. I would just like to, before we finish, there's that element. So I didn't actually mention chapter 9 in the book, which is about your future in NLP. And I think what I would encourage you to do is reflect on NLP is at a crossroads at the moment, and it's up to us as NLP professionals to take NLP in the direction that we want it to go. So it does become part of mainstream society. So it is in our education system and our health system and in organizations, and people recognize NLP as a mainstream solution. And we can do that collectively by being proud of NLP and being happy to be associated with NLP and not dressing it up as something else, but being proud of what we do as NLP professionals and taking that out into the world and making that difference. So I would encourage you to apply some of these NLP techniques to your own business, walk the talk, and stand loud and proud as an NLP professional. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Karen. I'm just going to wrap up here by saying there's a workshop survey that I would love to fill in. It's been great hearing about the book, Karen, about your heart of being the NLP professional, which I know you live and breathe. Thank you for doing that and sharing that with everyone here. There's also, Karen, whilst you were talking, it took me back to the conference when Judith Delosier and Judith Lowe did the modelling session of you, which we have a video of in the masterclass. Yeah. So I wonder if we could put that into the resources as well. I'm just going to put the Dropbox resources link in the chat again, so that everyone has it. Because I you can't say it, I can. I thought that was a brilliant piece of modelling that they did. So
well, if people are interested, then yes, we'll if anybody's interested, then we'll go and dig out the video that we've got somewhere, and we'll add that to Dropbox as well. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you everyone for being here, and we'll look forward to the next ANLP workshop, which the social media machine will inform you of. Thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.